What's up, guys? Hope everybody's doing good. I got a unique video for you here today. This week I cashed in a bunch of my free XP because I just don't use it anymore because I have barely any tanks left. And I got one of the two tanks that I don't have researched yet, the CS-63. The other tank that I don't have is the Yo. I don't plan on getting that anytime soon because the Renaturante is supposed to come out in some coming update at some point. So I'm saving up for that because I like that more. But the CS-63, I feel like nobody plays this tank. Nobody likes this tank. So I put it off. I was like, I don't care about it. I'm not going to get it. But now that I've played it, I absolutely love this tank. This thing is so much fun, and I'm going to tell you guys why. You guys can watch some gameplay here and see for yourselves. But this is a super unique tank that is actually, I think it's quite good. Every comparison that I've heard about this tank, people have said, oh, it's just a Leopard 1 without the DPM and without the mobility. Why the hell would I play this? And that's just not true. This thing is not a Leopard 1. You get tungsten and adrenaline and reticle calibration, so you can pick through those consumables. You're significantly slower than a Leopard 1, but you have much more armor than a Leopard 1, so it's not really a fair comparison. It's more similar to an STB-1, a 30B, anything that's geared towards hold down with a little bit of armor than something that's a focused DPM machine with no armor. It just does not share much at all with the Leopard 1. Being said, it is kind of slow. The turret traverse speed is really bad. The whole traverse isn't the greatest. The acceleration is also not the greatest. It just feels heavy when you drive it, but the armor gets a lot of bounces. It's got a weird turret armor structure where unless they just say screw it and load premium ammo, they're going to struggle penetrating unless you just sit in front of them. The gun is really fun. It hits its shots. It has a decent amount of damage per shot, and then once you get that tungsten and adrenaline going, you can really take out a tank very quickly. Also a factor that not a lot of people consider. As you can see, there's another CS-63 in this game on the enemy team. You don't see a CS-63 in battle, like, ever. And I've only played 14 games in the tank. In one of the first few games, I went up against one, and I can probably count on my fingers the amount of times that I've looked face to face from a medium at an STB-1 at a CS-63 on a ridgeline. And when I do that, every time I have to remind myself, do I shoot the inside of the turret or do I shoot the outside of the turret? And it's those cheeks right next to the gun mantlet and above and below the gun mantlet that you have to aim at. And people don't see this often, and they probably go through the same thing that I did when I saw that CS-63, and they think, oh, where am I supposed to aim at this thing again? When other medium tanks pop over the ridgeline, they already know in their head where they're supposed to be aiming. With this thing, they might not know, so you have to consider that if you're experienced in this tank, you can really take advantage of people that don't know what this tank looks like. Now, shifting to the actual stats of the tank, you get, I think it's like 3,360 DPM or something along those lines without any consumables running with gun rammer. And that's not great, especially for a tier 10 medium. You'd expect to have at least 3,500 DPM. But it's similar to the FV4202, except instead of using HESH, it uses the tungsten adrenaline consumables. And if you have the extended life consumables, you get 25 seconds of tungsten shells. And if your tungsten and adrenaline are both running, your DPM climbs up to 4,644, which, I mean, we all know that's incredibly high. We also know that when you're playing a tank like a Leopard 1 that has almost 4,000 DPM base without running any consumables, there's only a couple seconds or under a minute in a match at a time where you're actually using that DPM to its full potential. And when you get more than that, you're getting those games that are 7,000, 9,000 damage that are just absolutely one-offs, incredible games. That's not a common thing. Most games, it's just between 30 seconds and a minute, maybe 2 times that you're using your DPM and shooting on reload. And when it comes to the CS-63, you get 25 seconds of guaranteed almost 4,600 DPM. And then you got to wait a certain amount of time for your tungsten shells and your adrenaline to reload. But once they come back, you're back to it again. So if you time these consumables properly, and I mean, personally, I like to use the extended life ones so that I feel like I am less rushed to make my shots. But if you want the faster reloading consumables, that could also fit your playstyle better so you can make more high DPM engagements for a shorter amount of time. So this tank excels when you use these consumables properly. No one can rush you because if you use both of these consumables, your DPM is much higher than theirs. Your armor's also pretty good, so in a 1v1 against a medium tank, you're going to be bouncing shots. It's just a super strong tank when you consider all of the resources that it has. And I think that that is the downfall of this tank and the reason that people just overlook it and say that it's bad and a worse Leopard 1. They don't consider the fact that it has resources that the Leopard 1 doesn't necessarily have. You guys just watched a farm game. I used the consumables a little bit there, but most of that was just straight farming on a ridgeline, using the gun depression that the tank has and its decent armor profile, and a little bit of mobility to get around. Nothing crazy, just right place at the right time and, using your aim properly. This game is a little bit different. I have to move around a lot in this game, and the mobility in this tank is not the greatest, so you'll see whether or not that actually affects my gameplay. So right off the bat, we're going to go medium side here. I'm expecting to run in there for 202. I'm expecting him to be on the other side of that bush next to that rock right there. That's exactly where he is. Wasn't expecting him to rush me, and the problem here is he has Hesh. I use my adrenaline and my tungsten so that now my DPM is over 4,600, and I'm trying to bait him to shoot Hesh at me, but then give him my side, so he's probably going to hit my tracks. You can see I show him my lower plate, he loads the Hesh, and then I give him my tracks, and in his mind, he's probably not going to switch back to AP. He's probably going to hit the hard shot, or try to. He ends up missing it, and I get away with that. He has to drop down. Now, I was thinking in my head there might be somebody back there, and I thought I got shot by the grill there. It turns out being the T95 E6, but that was a gamble right there. I really didn't think anyone would be back there, but it seems that every time that I assume nobody's back there, there is somebody. Anyway, the T54 dropped in. T54 is not going to be winning this engagement. I'm just going to wait for the KPZ to fire and then get a shot into him and then go unspotted and leave. My head here, I'm thinking if I stay here, KPZ is going to go around the corner behind me. The grill is going to push up where the 4202 initially pushed me, and I'm just going to die whether or not the 183 supporting me gets a hit. So I go unspotted and then leave so that I can create a crossfire somewhere else. And luckily, my team has actually won their side, so I can escape to my team's map control pretty easily. You saw in that initial 1v1 there, this tank beat the 4202 tank. It was... Yeah, maybe I'm a better player, maybe I'm not. I don't know who that is, but if I were in a Leopard 1, even if I was a better player, that 4202 would have taken me apart because his DPM would have been over 4,000, and I wouldn't have been able to block any of his shots. So he has higher DPM, and I might bounce him because he has better armor. He's definitely not bouncing me, though. That's a situation where the CS-63, beginning of the game, you just can't push this tank because if he uses those consumables and you bounce or mess up a single shot, you're done. And if you don't have any advantages like the Hesh on the 4202, or you can't hit the Hesh because the armor's actually kind of good, you're not winning. You can see now that I've repositioned, I was pressuring the grill down there because he's bound to be shot at. He's out of position. I want to get the damage into him. Now that I'm back towards where I might be getting a second engagement where I need the DPM, I already have those consumables back. So it's a little bit slow, but it's right around the time to where I find that I'm repositioned and ready to shoot again that they come back. It depends on the map size. On medium size and smaller maps, it's a little bit too long, but if it was ready to go every time I wanted to engage somebody, the tank would be a little bit too overpowered. Now, because our 183 is covering the back lane, I'm going to rotate back here to see what's going on with the guys that I left on this side of the map. If the 183 wasn't there, I wouldn't go to this position because I wouldn't know if the KPZ-70 would be to my left going back on our spawn lane. I got a shot into the KPZ, and it's clear that the E6 is not going to rotate to this side of the Castilla hill. He's just going to stay on that side. So I'm going to go unspotted and leave, because once that KPZ reloads, all he needs to do is cover the distance to get to me. And if he lands the shot, I'm dead because I'm below his minimum roll. So I need to get out of there again. And this time, again, I'm going to rotate back to the other side of the map, see what I can do over there. And the mobility, as you can see, isn't the greatest, but you're still a medium tank. You're not a slow tank. I can get all the way across Castilla back and forth within the game time in a reasonable amount of time. That's great. You're not going to win any races in the thing, but you're still a medium tank. And with the amount of DPM you can potentially have, it's good that this thing isn't as fast as the Leopard, because then it would make the Leopard useless. See, in that engagement, my pathing was through the buildings initially because I didn't want to get spotted by the E6 until I was very close to being able to take a shot at the 183. It's the same thing in yesterday's video. If you're spotted while repositioning, or the enemy team gets shots on you while you're repositioning, you're much more likely to take damage and then be useless once you get to your spot. You only want to get spotted, if you have to be spotted, once you're already in position and ready to fire. Here the game's essentially over. I'm going to use both of my consumables because I don't know what's going to be happening. I see both my heavy tanks coming up. I'm assuming this guy's going to turn around, and I just want to get as much damage into him as I can. So this tank, the gun is great, the mobility is all you need it to be, and people underestimate you. That's a great combination for a tank. Like, I just enjoy playing this thing a lot more than I thought I would. I put it off, like I said, for a long time because I didn't think it was anything special, but I'm really glad that I have it now because this tank is actually really good. So I'll do a conclusion here because this is more of a review video than a gameplay video. In conclusion, this thing, the perspective people have of it is that it's a slow, unarmored, low DPM, useless tank. The reality is not that. The reality is that you have absolutely more than workable DPM base, and then when you need it for about 25 seconds, you have DPM that is way through the roof of anything else you'll be fighting. You also have much better armor to DPM combo than a lot of tanks when that stuff is running, and without your consumables, just with your base DPM, your armor is still very, very good for a medium tank. Forward speed is really not all that bad. You're not the fastest, but you're definitely not the slowest. You have 8 degrees of gun depression with incredible gun accuracy and good aiming time, and this is one of those guns for me that actually hits its shots, so that's an important part of it. Your traverse speed kind of suffers, and you do have 340 alpha instead of 350, so a little bit lower than some other tier 10 mediums, but the disadvantages that this tank gets do not add up to what people say about it. The actual total conclusion that I have is that this is one of the top tier mediums in the game if you know how to manage your consumable usage. Managing your consumables lines right up with map placement and moving around and all of that. So if you have a good handle on how to play positioning and play the game in a lighter or medium tank, this thing will not be that bad once you factor in the consumables. I do have to say that if you don't want to run both consumables, that's completely fine. If you just run adrenaline, you get 4,000, just over 4,000 DPM, and if you just run tungsten, you get 3,900. So if you don't want to run both, the tank will still work, and if you don't end up using any very effectively, it's not like this tank is going to completely suck. You have reliable armor for a medium, you've got reliable mobility, and you've got a good hitting gun, so you can't really go wrong with this, and I don't understand where this sort of attitude of this tank sucks is coming from, unless it's just from people that have never played it before, which I kind of assume considering that I aced almost every game in this tank and did not earn enough XP to warrant that happening. So nobody really plays this thing, and the people that play it aren't playing it well. So I wouldn't take all these echo chamber of advices that are saying this tank sucks, don't get it. I think that you should try it for yourself if you like mediums, and it'll probably be a lot more enjoyable of an experience than you think it will be, and that these people are saying that it will be. Thank you guys for watching to the end. I really appreciate everybody's support for the channel. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you're interested in interacting more with the channel or suggesting tanks and stuff, feel free to do that in the comments. I also will link my Discord in the description. If you join that, you can chat with me directly if you want me to play a specific tank, or if you have a longer suggestion that's harder to write in the comments. Thank you guys for watching, and have a great rest of your day.